Hi, in our previous two videos we have covered almost more than 20 nodejs interview questions. I will provide the link in the description below. And today also we will see what are the other type of questions which are generally asked in nodejs interviews. What is the difference between var, let and constant? So the main difference between var and let is var is a global variable. Means if you define var here, var message equals to hello world, and suppose I am defining a scope and console.log message so this message is accessible inside the scope of true or if value. And if I give node dot, so you can see that it got printed in both the places. Now if I change this and make it here, var will be available globally. You can see hello world is printed. Let me define it by console2. We can see that hello world is printed in both the cases because this message is available outside the scope of this block. But if I change it to let, let's see what happens and rerun the application. So we can see that first hello world is printed, but for the next time it shows that message is not defined because once the scope is over, after this block it is not able to find the variable with name msg or message. But if we define it outside this block, then it will be available. So we can see that it is available outside also. And if we are not using TypeScript, that in that case we can remove var and just define msg or the variable name equals to hello world, and this message will be of type var and it will be available globally. So if we print out console.log message outside the scope of this block, then also it will be available. So you can see that the message got printed without defining like anything var or let. And constant is like final in Java. So let's define it as a constant. So if we define anything constant, we will not be able to modify it. The message equals to, if we want to modify like message plus, and we'll move this world to here. So we can see that it is throwing error attempting to override message which is a constant. So it is of type final, means we can't edit or we can't modify the value. What is the difference between like nodejs, ajax and jquery? Node.js, Ajax and jquery are completely three different things. Node.js is mainly used for server-side scripting, for writing applications or any APIs or like client servers. So it is similar like Apache in Java or like Django in Python. But Ajax, which is also called asynchronous JavaScript and XML, it is a client-side scripting technique used to mainly render or change a part of the browser without refreshing it. Means using Ajax I can call any REST API and fetch the JSON or XML data and manipulate the DOM without refreshing or without reloading the whole browser. jquery is a famous JavaScript library. It also includes Ajax in it, and apart from that like DOM traversing, looping, many things are included in jquery. It is not mandatory, but it helps developer to write a piece of code in a much simpler way. How to call an array of promises asynchronously? So we can call an array of promises asynchronously using Promise.all. So let's check how we can write or how we can implement Promise.all. For that we will use or create a function my first promise, which is of type new promise, and it either resolve or reject, and we will use set timeout and resolve with message my first promise after a time of 500 milliseconds. Similarly, we will copy and paste and create two more promises, my second promise and my third promise. And I will resolve this after 1 second, and I will resolve this after 2 seconds. So what will happen if I call one after another? So if I call like my first promise and I wait, and then I call for my second promise, and then I wait and I call my for third promise, so it will take more than 3.5 seconds. So if I call them asynchronously all at a time, so I will wait maximum like a little bit more than 2000 milliseconds. Let's check out Promise.all, which takes an array of all promises, my first promise, my second promise, my third promise, dot then. So here we will have results, which will be an array of all the promises resolved. So it will dot then will only contain all which has been resolved. And if I console.log, results index 0, my first promise, index.1, my second promise resolved, and then my third promise resolved. And if I run the application, we can see that my first promise got resolved, then second promise, then third promise. So if you check, it will be resolved at 500 milliseconds. After that, this will be resolved, and after that, this will be resolved. But suppose in this promise, something got failed, so we will reject it. So if any of the promises in this array got rejected, so it will not wait for other promise to get resolved. Instead of that, it will just reject and it will come to catch block. Let's run the application. We can see that my second promise, which is the reject message from my second promise method, has been printed. So it didn't came to then block. Now can you tell me the difference between Promise.all versus Promise.allSettled? So the main difference between Promise.all and Promise.allSettled is in Promise.all, it will wait either for all the promises or the array of promises either to get resolved or either one of them should get rejected. But in Promise.allSettled, it will wait for all the promises to get either resolved or reject. Let's check. So from our previous example, if we just change it to settled and run the application, we can see that it came in then block. because there will be no catch at this moment. So it is like fulfilled, or it is rejected, and it is also fulfilled. And these are the reasons or value why it got rejected, or why it is, or with what value it got resolved. And what is Promise.race? So Promise.race is like similar to Promise.all. We will be passing all or like multiple promises. Like I am calling 5 REST API, and if one of the REST API either resolves or rejects it, then I can proceed without waiting for other promises to get resolved. So in that case, I will change this to 100 millisecond. So this will be performed first, then second this, and then this. So if we use race condition here, and run node.app, so we can see that my second promise, which got rejected, has been printed first. And instead of reject also, if we resolve it, then also, oops, what happened? Okay, so it will return only one successful or only one resolve. So in that case, it will be result. If I omit it and rerun it, so you can see that my second promise is printed because it got resolved first. So it's like a race between all the promises. Either it should get rejected first or it should get accepted first. Can you write a piece of code to read a file asynchronously or like in a non-blocking way? For asynchronous reading of file, first we need to import fs, and then what we'll do is like we will write the value of fs, like value equals to fs dot read file. So read file will take a parameter sample.txt and a function or higher order callback with type error and data. Okay, in this case we can remove this. And console.log, you can print the data. And if I define another function here, like let my fun function and console.log my function, and call my function. So it will run asynchronously because it will not wait in line 8, rather it will jump to line 12, get its work done, then it will perform the callback operation or the asynchronous call. Let's run it and check. So here we can see that it ran line number 5 or the function my fun first, then it printed or it returned the data which is of type buffer. Can you read the same file synchronously or like in a blocking way? So in order to read a file synchronously, first we need to import required fs, and then fs has two functions, fs dot read file and read file sync. So if you use read file sync, what it will do is like it will take a parameter or path to the file. So we can give like sample.txt, and if we assign it to data, you can just console out console.log data, oops, to be small c. Let's create sample.text, My name is Gaurav. And then if we try to console, or if we try to run some other functions, like if I define here another function, let my function equals to function console.log, inside my function. So in that case, what will happen is like console.log, or if I run my function only, node app.js, we can see that it was waiting in this line, like in line number 7 it was waiting, then it printed the buffer, and then it went, or it called line number 10, that is my function. So that is synchronous calling. What is eventEmitter in node.js? EventEmitter is used to raise and handle custom events. For that we need to import events from events and create a eventEmitter. Then this eventEmitter will register an event like my first event, and it will have a listener, my listener, and we will define here so when an event has been raised or emitted, event.emit, so if I emit an event which is of type first event, then we can see my listener is being invoked. But if I emit another event like second event, in that case there is no listener for the second event, and I will not be able to handle or take any action on this event, second event. Even in the first event I can pass some data and I can handle it here. So you can see my listener and we have received the data. Even after emitting it, we can deregister or remove the listener, like event.remove listener. With all remove, it will remove all the listeners, but suppose I want to, there are 2 or 3 listeners which is listening to first event, and I want to just remove my listener first event, and I will remove my listener. After that, if I try to emit, it should not invoke anything. So we can see that this part didn't invoke the listener. What is REPL in node.js? REPL stands for read, eval, print and loop. It is a simple program that accepts command, evaluates them and finally prints the result. REPL provides an environment similar to Unix or Linux shell or a Windows console, in which we can enter a command and in turn system will respond with an output. So it reads the input from the user, parse it into a JavaScript data structure and store it in the memory. It then executes or evaluates the data structure and then prints the result obtained after evaluating the command. It loops read, evaluate and print until the user press Ctrl+C 2 times. Some common REPL examples are .help, then .clear, then .break, .save, .load, and Ctrl+C to terminate the current command and Ctrl+C to terminate or come out of REPL. What is globals in Node.js and what are the different types of globals available? Globals are of three parts. Among them, one is global, another is process, and the third one is buffer. So the first one, global, is a namespace object which acts as a container for all other global objects. So if we go to this example and run the debugger, we can see here we had global object which contains like array buffer, then automatic big integer, then we had console, everything we had here like console.log, console.1, console.errors, all these, even like what is the date format, error, eval, escape. So all this has been wrapped under global, and this global is again wrapped under globals. Process is also a global object, but it makes or turns a synchronous function into a asynchronous callback. So in our previous video, we have seen how we have used process.nextTick to convert a synchronous function to an asynchronous callback. There are other usage also like process.memory usage, process.version, process.platform, which gives us the node version, then current platform we are using, what is the memory usage. So if we use process.memory usage and print out, we can see the heap total, heap used. And the third type is buffer. Buffer is a class in Node.js to handle binary data. It is mainly designed to receive or to store raw binary data like dealing with TCP streams or like file systems. That's all for this tutorial. See you again on next interview questions and answers. Till then, bye bye.